Welcome, high-value men. In the world of relationships, it's not just about what you do right. It's about avoiding the wrong moves that can ruin everything. Think about this. How often have you seen a man lose a woman's respect simply because of a small, avoidable mistake? Maybe you've been there yourself, wondering where it all went wrong. The truth is, women often respond not just to your actions, but to the energy behind them. And that's where many men fail. Picture this. A friend of mine, a successful and confident man, was out on a date with a woman he genuinely admired. Everything seemed perfect. His outfit was sharp, his words were smooth, and he even picked a spot she loved. Yet, midway through the evening, her energy shifted. She became distant, her laughter less enthusiastic. He didn't understand it at the time, but looking back, he realized he had made a critical mistake. He was trying too hard to impress her, to the point that he lost the effortless charm that women are naturally drawn to. But here's the good news. You're not like most men. You're here because you value growth, understanding, and mastery. High-value men operate differently. They understand that respect isn't given, it's earned. And it starts by mastering not just what to do, but also knowing what never to do. That's what separates men who inspire admiration from those who leave women feeling disappointed. Today, we're diving into the 7 critical mistakes high-value men never make with women. These aren't just surface-level errors. They're the kind of habits that can quietly sabotage your respect, your power, and your presence in a relationship. Whether you're dating, in a long-term partnership, or simply navigating social interactions, avoiding these mistakes is key to maintaining your high-value identity. Imagine this. You're on a date with someone you genuinely like. The conversation flows, but there's a subtle shift. She starts pulling away, and you're left confused. Was it something you said, or worse, something you didn't realize you were doing? These moments can feel frustrating, but they're also opportunities. Opportunities to learn, grow, and never repeat the same mistake again. By the end of this, you'll not only know what these mistakes are, but also how to replace them with actions that command respect and admiration. So stick around. This might just be the game changer you've been looking for. Sound fair enough? Mistake 1. Being too available. One of the biggest mistakes men make in relationships is being too available. It's a natural instinct. When you like someone, you want to spend time with them, respond to their texts immediately, and be there whenever they need you. But here's the problem. Availability, when overdone, diminishes value. Think about it. If something is always accessible, does it feel special anymore? Let me tell you a story about a colleague, John. John was what you'd call the perfect guy. He had a good job, great manners, and a genuine interest in people. When he met Sarah, he was smitten. He made it a point to always be there for her. Whether it was a midnight text or a last-minute plan, John never said no. At first, Sarah appreciated his attention, but over time, something changed. She started canceling plans and taking longer to respond. Eventually, she stopped seeing him altogether. John was left heartbroken and confused. The hard truth? John had made himself too available. By constantly being there, he inadvertently communicated that his time wasn't valuable, that he wasn't pursuing anything beyond her. Sarah lost the excitement, the challenge, and ultimately her interest. High-value men understand this dynamic. They know that their time is a finite resource, and they guard it fiercely. It's not about playing games or being manipulative. It's about prioritizing yourself and your goals. When you're constantly available, you send a message that you're waiting around, and that's not the energy that attracts respect. So, what's the solution? The first step is to shift your focus back to yourself. If you find yourself dropping everything for someone, pause and ask, is this serving my purpose, or am I over-prioritizing their needs? High-value men maintain a balance between generosity and self-respect. They're there for the people they care about, but they're not at anyone's beck and call. Another strategy is to maintain your personal boundaries. For example, if you're in the middle of a workout or a meeting and she calls, don't immediately stop everything to respond. Instead, finish what you're doing and call back when it's convenient. This small act sends a powerful message. You're disciplined, focused, and not easily swayed. Consider this. When you're less available, every moment you do spend together becomes more meaningful. Scarcity creates value. It's a principle that applies to relationships as much as it does to economics. When a woman knows that your time is precious, she'll appreciate it more. She'll see you as someone who's driven, someone with a life of his own, and that's incredibly attractive. Now, you might wonder, doesn't this approach come across as distant or uninterested? The answer is no, if done correctly. High-value men are not distant, they're intentional. They show genuine interest, but within the framework of a balanced, purposeful life. Here's a practical exercise. Take an inventory of your week. How much of your time are you dedicating to your goals, hobbies, and self-improvement versus your relationships? If the balance is skewed, it's time to recalibrate. Remember, a man who is always available is rarely seen as a prize. The Stoics taught us the importance of discipline and self-control. As Marcus Aurelius once said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. When you control your availability, you're exercising that power. You're choosing to value your time, and in turn, you're teaching others to value it too. In conclusion, being too available is a trap that even well-intentioned men can fall into. It's rooted in a desire to please, but it often backfires, leading to diminished respect and attraction. The key is balance. Be present, but don't be omnipresent. Respect yourself enough to set boundaries, and others will follow suit. Mistake 2. Chasing instead of attracting. One of the most common mistakes men make is chasing women instead of focusing on attracting them. The chase might feel thrilling, but it often leads to the exact opposite of what you want: disinterest and even disdain. Why? Because chasing implies desperation. It sends a subtle but clear message: I need you to validate me. High-value men, however, operate differently. They focus on building an irresistible presence, not running after someone else's approval. Let me share a story about Michael. He was charismatic and successful, but found himself in a frustrating cycle. Every time he liked a woman, he poured all his energy into winning her attention. Lavish gifts, constant messages, surprise visits, you name it, he did it. But the results were always the same. Women would lose interest. One even told him, "It feels like you're trying too hard." That sentence stuck with him. Michael realized that his efforts, though well-meaning, came across as needy rather than confident. What Michael didn't understand was the psychology of attraction. Women are naturally drawn to men who exude confidence and self-assurance, not those who seek validation. When you chase, you put yourself in a position of lower value. It's like saying, "I need you more than you need me." And no one wants to feel like they're being placed on a pedestal they didn't ask for. High-value men flip the script. Instead of chasing, they attract. Attraction is about being, not doing. It's about embodying the qualities that naturally draw people to you. Think about it. Have you ever noticed how some men walk into a room and immediately command attention without saying a word? That's the power of attraction. So how do you shift from chasing to attracting? It starts with your mindset. Stop viewing women as prizes to be won and start seeing yourself as the prize. This isn't arrogance, it's self-worth. High-value men know their value and don't feel the need to prove it to anyone. Another key is focusing on your personal growth. When you're constantly improving yourself, whether it's your career, fitness, hobbies, or emotional intelligence, you become magnetic. People are drawn to those who have their lives together, who are passionate, and who are on a mission. Women respect and admire men who are driven, not those who revolve their world around them. Here's an example. Instead of spending your evenings texting her nonstop, use that time to hit the gym, learn a new skill, or work on your goals. Not only does this make you a better version of yourself, but it also creates a sense of mystery and intrigue. When you're not always readily available, she starts wondering about you. And that's where attraction begins. Body language is another powerful tool in the art of attraction. When you're confident, it shows. Stand tall, make steady eye contact, and speak with purpose. These subtle cues send a strong message. I'm secure in who I am. Women notice these details more than you might think. Let's not forget the role of boundaries. High-value men don't tolerate disrespect or settle for less than they deserve. If a woman is inconsistent or unappreciative, they don't chase, they walk away. This isn't about playing games, it's about self-respect. When you hold yourself to high standards, Others will naturally rise to meet them, or they won't, and that's okay too. Stoicism offers valuable insights here. As Epictetus said, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. The same applies to relationships. When you're not driven by the need to possess or control, you radiate calm confidence. This inner peace is incredibly attractive because it shows that you're in charge of your emotions, not ruled by them. Now, some might argue, if I don't chase, how will she know I'm interested? The answer lies in intentional action. High-value men express interest, but they do it in ways that align with their values. Instead of overwhelming someone with constant attention, they create opportunities for connection while maintaining their sense of self. It's about balance, showing enough interest to spark curiosity, but not so much that it feels forced. In conclusion, chasing is a game for boys. Attracting is the art of men. By focusing on your growth, setting boundaries, and cultivating confidence, you shift the dynamic. Instead of running after someone, you become the person they want to run toward. That's the difference between desperation and magnetism, and it's a difference that high-value men understand deeply. Mistake 3. Trying to impress too hard. Have you ever felt the need to go above and beyond just to prove your worth to someone? Maybe you thought, if I impress her with my achievements, my humor, or my generosity, she'll see how valuable I am. While this might seem logical, it often backfires. Trying too hard to impress can come across as desperate and even disingenuous. High-value men understand that true attraction isn't about overcompensating, it's about authenticity. Let me share a story about Adam. Adam was ambitious, charming, and had a lot going for him. When he met Lisa, he wanted to make sure she knew he was serious about her. On their first date, he took her to one of the most expensive restaurants in the city. During the meal, he couldn't stop talking about his accomplishments, his promotion, the new car he just bought, and the upcoming vacation he had planned. At first, Lisa seemed impressed, but by the end of the night, she was distant. A week later, she politely declined his invitation for a second date. What went wrong? Adam's intentions were good, but his execution sent the wrong message. By trying too hard to impress, he created an image that felt forced and unnatural. Instead of letting his personality and values shine through, he relied on external markers of success to win her over. This approach often triggers a sense of skepticism in women. If he's truly confident, why does he feel the need to prove it? High-value men don't fall into this trap because they know their worth isn't tied to outward displays. They let their character, actions, and presence speak for themselves. When you're authentic, you don't need to prove anything. It's naturally evident. So, how do you avoid trying too hard to impress? The first step is understanding that less is more. Instead of leading with your accomplishments, focus on creating genuine connections. Ask meaningful questions, listen actively, and share your thoughts without embellishment. Authenticity is far more attractive than a laundry list of achievements. Let's take another look at Adam's scenario. Imagine if, instead of talking about his promotion and car, he had shared a story about a challenge he overcame, or a meaningful experience that shaped his values. Lisa would have connected with the real Adam, not the curated version he thought she wanted to see. Vulnerability, when done with confidence, is one of the most powerful tools for building trust and connection. Body language also plays a crucial role here. High-value men project calmness and composure. When you're comfortable in your own skin, it shows. You don't need to dominate the conversation or seek constant validation. A steady gaze, a relaxed posture, and a genuine smile communicate more about your confidence than words ever could. Another key is practicing humility. This doesn't mean downplaying your achievements or pretending to be someone you're not. Instead, it's about balancing pride with perspective. Celebrate your successes, but don't let them define you. Women are drawn to men who are grounded, those who can acknowledge their strengths without arrogance. Here's an actionable tip. The next time you're on a date or having a meaningful conversation, challenge yourself to focus more on her than on yourself. Shift the spotlight. Ask questions that encourage her to share her passions, dreams, and experiences. By doing this, you demonstrate confidence without saying a word. You're showing that you don't need to make everything about you because you're secure in who you are. Stoicism offers profound insights on this topic. As Seneca wisely noted, it is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor. This craving for approval or validation through impressing others stems from insecurity. When you let go of this need, you free yourself to be authentic and genuine, a quality that naturally draws others to you. Now let's address a common concern. If I don't try to impress her, won't she think I'm boring? Absolutely not. High-value men are anything but boring because they focus on substance over spectacle. Instead of impressing, they inspire. Instead of trying, they just are. And that's what makes them magnetic. In conclusion, trying too hard to impress is a pitfall that stems from misunderstanding the dynamics of attraction. It's rooted in the fear of not being enough. But the truth is, you already are. By embracing authenticity, practicing humility, and focusing on connection, you transform the way others perceive you. Remember, high-value men don't chase applause. They command respect. Mistake 4. Neglecting emotional boundaries. Emotional boundaries are the invisible lines that protect your sense of self. Neglecting them is one of the quickest ways to lose respect in a relationship. High-value men understand this well, yet many fall into the trap of letting their boundaries blur, especially when emotions run high. Why does this happen? Because it's tempting to think that giving all of yourself is the ultimate display of love or commitment. But in reality, it often leads to resentment, power imbalances, and a loss of identity. Let's look at a story. Mark was in a relationship with Emily, a woman he adored. Whenever she had a bad day, he dropped everything to comfort her. If she was upset about something, even if it wasn't his fault, he took it upon himself to fix it. Over time, Mark's world started revolving around Emily's emotions. He stopped seeing his friends, skipped workouts, and even let his work suffer because he didn't want to upset her by saying no. At first, Emily appreciated his efforts, but soon she started feeling smothered. Eventually, she broke things off, telling him, "I feel like you've lost yourself in this relationship." What went wrong? Mark neglected his emotional boundaries. By putting Emily's needs above his own in every situation, he unintentionally communicated that his emotions and priorities didn't matter. This created an unhealthy dynamic where Emily felt responsible for his well-being, something no one wants to carry. High-value men avoid this mistake by recognizing the importance of emotional boundaries. Boundaries aren't walls meant to shut others out. They're frameworks that ensure mutual respect and understanding. When you establish boundaries, you're saying, "I value myself and I value you enough to maintain a healthy dynamic." So how do you set emotional boundaries without coming across as cold or detached? Start by identifying your non-negotiables. These are the aspects of your life, your time, energy, values, and goals that you won't compromise. For example, if your workout routine is essential for your mental health, make it clear that this time is non-negotiable. If you need time alone to recharge, communicate this respectfully. High-value men are not afraid to say no when necessary, but they do so with kindness and clarity. Another key is to resist the urge to fix everything. It's natural to want to help when someone you care about is struggling, but there's a fine line between supporting and overstepping. Instead of immediately jumping in to solve problems, practice active listening. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply be present and empathetic. This approach not only respects the other person's autonomy, but also strengthens the emotional connection. Body language plays a role here too. When your boundaries are firm, it shows in how you carry yourself. Confidence, calmness, and a steady demeanor signal that you're in control of your emotions. This, in turn, reassures the other person that they can rely on you without overwhelming you. Now, let's address a common misconception. Setting boundaries does not mean being rigid or selfish. On the contrary, it's about creating a balanced dynamic where both people feel valued and heard. For example, if your partner expresses a need that conflicts with your boundaries, high-value men approach it with curiosity and open dialogue. Instead of reacting defensively, they seek to understand and find a compromise that respects both parties. Stoicism provides valuable lessons here. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Emotional boundaries are an extension of this principle. When you take responsibility for your emotions and let others take responsibility for theirs, you create a foundation of mutual respect and trust. Here's a practical exercise to strengthen your emotional boundaries. The next time you're faced with a situation where someone's emotions demand your immediate attention, pause. Ask yourself, am I responding out of obligation, or am I choosing to engage because it aligns with my values? This simple reflection can prevent you from overcommitting and help you maintain your sense of self. In conclusion, neglecting emotional boundaries might seem like an act of love, but it often leads to unintended consequences. High-value men understand that boundaries are not barriers, they're bridges to healthier, more fulfilling relationships. By valuing your own emotions and priorities, you teach others to do the same. And when you operate from a place of balance and self-respect, you inspire admiration, not just from women, but from everyone around you. Mistake 5. Ignoring subtle communication. Communication isn't just about words. In fact, much of what someone expresses is conveyed through their body language, tone, and subtle cues. High-value men understand this, yet many others overlook these nonverbal signals, often leading to misunderstandings and missed opportunities. Women, in particular, are masters of subtle communication. Ignoring these cues can create the impression that you're inattentive, or worse, emotionally disconnected. Consider this scenario. Jake was on a third date with Clara. Things were going well, or so he thought. Clara smiled and laughed at his jokes, but her body language told a different story. She leaned back, crossed her arms, and her eyes often wandered around the room. Jake didn't pick up on these signs. He assumed everything was fine, but a few days later, Clara texted him saying she didn't feel a connection. Jake was blindsided. What went wrong? Jake's mistake wasn't what he said, it was what he failed to notice. Clara's body language was a subtle but clear indicator that she wasn't fully engaged. By ignoring these cues, Jake missed an opportunity to address the situation and recalibrate the conversation. High-value men avoid this mistake by honing their emotional intelligence. They're not just good talkers, they're exceptional listeners, both to what's said and what's left unsaid. This awareness allows them to adapt, connect, and leave a lasting impression. So how can you improve your ability to pick up on subtle communication? Start by observing body language. Pay attention to small details. Is she leaning toward you or away? Are her arms open or crossed? Are her eyes meeting yours, or are they darting around? These cues often reveal more than words ever could. For example, leaning in shows interest, while crossing arms may indicate discomfort or defensiveness. Tone of voice is another critical element. Women often communicate their feelings through slight changes in pitch or emphasis. A high-value man listens carefully, not just to the words, but to how they're delivered. Is her tone warm and inviting, or does it carry a hint of hesitation? Recognizing these nuances can help you respond appropriately and keep the connection alive. Another layer of subtle communication lies in timing and pacing. If a woman takes her time to respond to a text or seems less enthusiastic than usual, it might signal that something's off. Instead of overreacting, a high-value man remains calm and curious. He doesn't jump to conclusions, but seeks clarity through open, respectful dialogue. Here's a practical tip. Practice active observation. The next time you're in a conversation, challenge yourself to notice 3 nonverbal cues. It could be the way someone tilts their head when they're curious, the way they fidget when they're nervous, or the way their posture changes when they're interested. Over time, this practice will sharpen your ability to read subtle signals. Stoicism also offers insights into this skill. As Epictetus wisely observed, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. Listening isn't just about hearing words, it's about attuning yourself to the full spectrum of communication. This requires patience, mindfulness, and a willingness to be present in the moment. Now let's address a common misconception. If I focus too much on subtle cues, won't I overanalyze everything? Not at all. The goal isn't to dissect every gesture or word, it's to cultivate awareness. High-value men don't overthink, they observe with intention. This balance allows them to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. Let's revisit Jake's scenario. If he had noticed Clara's disengaged body language, he could have shifted the dynamic. Perhaps he might have said, "You seem a little distracted," Is everything okay? This simple acknowledgement could have opened the door for an honest conversation and potentially salvaged the connection. In conclusion, ignoring subtle communication is a mistake that stems from a lack of awareness. High-value men excel in this area because they understand that connection isn't built on words alone. It's about tuning in to the unspoken. By paying attention to body language, tone, and timing, you not only enhance your relationships, but also position yourself as someone who truly gets it. And in a world where genuine understanding is rare, that's a quality that sets you apart. Mistake 6. Showing insecurity. Insecurity is like a crack in the foundation of a building. It might not be obvious at first, but over time, it becomes impossible to ignore. In relationships, showing insecurity can quietly erode respect and attraction. Women are instinctively drawn to confidence and stability, traits that high-value men consistently exude. However, insecurity often manifests in subtle ways that men might not even realize, from seeking constant reassurance to overreacting to perceived slights. Let's take a closer look with a story about Ethan. Ethan was in a new relationship with Maya, someone he genuinely admired. He wanted to make sure she knew how much he cared, so he often asked questions like, "Do you still like me?" Or "Are you sure I'm the kind of guy you're looking for?" Initially, Maya reassured him, but over time, these questions started to wear on her. It wasn't just the words, it was the energy behind them. Ethan's need for validation made Maya question his confidence, and eventually, the relationship fell apart. What Ethan didn't realize was that his insecurity wasn't just about his feelings for Maya, it was about his self-perception. When you seek validation from others, you're essentially handing over your sense of worth to them. High-value men, on the other hand, derive their confidence from within. They know their value, and they don't need constant affirmation to believe in it. So, how can you avoid showing insecurity? The first step is recognizing the subtle ways it can creep into your behavior. Do you find yourself overanalyzing her texts or social media activity? Do you feel a pang of jealousy when she mentions other men? These reactions are natural, but how you handle them makes all the difference. Instead of acting on these feelings, pause and reflect. Ask yourself, is this reaction based on reality, or is it my fear talking? This simple step can help you regain control over your emotions. Another key is to focus on self-assurance rather than external validation. High-value men don't need to be told they're worthy, they already know it. This confidence comes from pursuing their passions, achieving their goals, and cultivating a strong sense of identity. When you're fulfilled in your own life, you're less likely to rely on someone else to fill the gaps. Body language is another critical aspect. Insecurity often shows in small, unconscious ways, avoiding eye contact, fidgeting, or speaking with hesitation. High-value men counter this by practicing confident body language. Stand tall, maintain steady eye contact, and speak with purpose. Even if you don't feel 100% confident in the moment, these actions can help you project it. And eventually, you'll internalize it. Let's address a common scenario: jealousy. It's one of the most potent expressions of insecurity, and it can destroy relationships if left unchecked. High-value men understand that jealousy often stems from a fear of loss or inadequacy. Instead of letting it consume them, they confront it head-on. For example, if your partner is friendly with other men, instead of reacting defensively, focus on building trust and strengthening your bond. Remember, confidence isn't about controlling someone else's actions, it's about being secure in your own. Stoicism provides valuable tools for overcoming insecurity. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. When you focus on what you can control, your thoughts, actions, and responses, you free yourself from the grip of insecurity. This inner strength is not only empowering, but also incredibly attractive. Here's a practical exercise. Every time you feel a surge of insecurity, write it down. Identify the trigger and examine it objectively. Was it a legitimate concern, or was it rooted in fear or doubt? Then, write down a confident response to that insecurity. For example, if you're worried about not being good enough, remind yourself of your accomplishments and the qualities that make you unique. Over time, this practice can help reframe your mindset and build genuine self-assurance. Now, let's dispel a common myth. Being vulnerable means showing insecurity. This couldn't be further from the truth. Vulnerability, when expressed with confidence, is a sign of strength. Sharing your thoughts and feelings in an honest, balanced way can deepen connections and build trust. The difference lies in how you present it. Insecurity seeks validation. Vulnerability seeks understanding. In conclusion, showing insecurity is a silent killer of respect and attraction. High-value men know that confidence isn't about being flawless. It's about embracing your imperfections with grace and self-assurance. By focusing on your growth, practicing confident body language, and reframing your mindset, you can transform insecurity into inner strength. And when you operate from a place of self-worth, you inspire admiration and respect, not just from women, but from everyone around you. Mistake 7. Overinvesting too early. One of the most damaging mistakes a man can make in a relationship is overinvesting too early. It's easy to fall into this trap. When you meet someone you're genuinely excited about, you want to give them your time, energy, and even resources. But high-value men understand the importance of pacing. Relationships, like any meaningful pursuit, require balance and mutual effort. Overinvesting too soon not only disrupts this balance, but can also make you appear desperate or overly eager. Take the story of Ryan, for example. Ryan was a generous and kind-hearted man. When he started dating Chloe, he felt an instant connection. Determined to show her how much he cared, he showered her with expensive gifts, planned extravagant dates, and constantly made himself available. At first, Chloe seemed appreciative, but over time, her interest started to fade. She eventually told Ryan she didn't feel the same way, leaving him heartbroken and confused. What Ryan didn't realize was that his actions, while well-meaning, created an uneven dynamic. By overinvesting, he unintentionally made Chloe feel pressured and even guilty for not reciprocating at the same level. High-value men avoid this mistake by understanding that a relationship should evolve naturally, with both parties contributing equally over time. So, how do you avoid overinvesting too early? The first step is recognizing the signs. If you're the one always initiating plans, covering all expenses, or rearranging your schedule to accommodate her, it's time to step back. Relationships thrive on balance, and overinvestment disrupts that equilibrium. High-value men focus on giving what feels natural and appropriate for the stage of the relationship, rather than overextending themselves. Another key is to let her contribute. When a woman invests in the relationship, whether through time, effort, or thoughtfulness, it fosters mutual respect and a stronger connection. For example, if she suggests splitting the bill or planning the next date, let her. This not only creates a sense of partnership, but also shows that you value her as an equal. Body language and tone also play a role in how you pace your investment. High-value men exude calm confidence, even in the early stages of dating. They're not overly eager or anxious to prove themselves, and this demeanor sets the tone for a balanced relationship. Small gestures, like maintaining steady eye contact and listening attentively, often leave a greater impression than grand displays of affection. Let's address a common misconception. Isn't being generous a good thing? Of course, generosity is a wonderful quality, but timing and context matter. Overwhelming someone with attention or gifts too early can feel insincere or even transactional, as if you're trying to buy their affection. High-value men are generous, but their generosity comes from a place of abundance, not obligation. Stoicism provides valuable insights here. As Epictetus taught, know first who you are and what you want, then act accordingly. Before pouring your energy into a relationship, ask yourself, am I acting out of genuine connection or am I trying to secure their approval? This self-awareness can prevent overinvestment and ensure that your actions align with your values. Here's a practical exercise. The next time you're planning a date or interaction, consider your approach. Are you giving too much too soon? If so, scale back and focus on creating moments that allow for mutual effort. For example, instead of planning an elaborate dinner, suggest something simple like a walk in the park or a coffee date. These low-pressure scenarios encourage organic connection without the weight of overinvestment. Now, let's talk about the long-term effects of overinvesting. When you set a precedent of giving too much too early, it can create unrealistic expectations in the relationship. This often leads to feelings of resentment when the other person doesn't reciprocate at the same level. High-value men understand that pacing their investment not only protects their emotional well-being, but also lays the foundation for a healthy, sustainable relationship. In conclusion, overinvesting too early is a mistake rooted in good intentions, but often leads to disappointment and imbalance. High-value men know that relationships are about mutual effort and growth. By pacing your investment, fostering partnership, and acting with self-awareness, you create a dynamic that inspires respect and admiration. Remember, it's not about withholding, it's about ensuring that what you give is valued and reciprocated. Conclusion: mastering relationships as a high-value man isn't about perfection. It's about awareness, discipline, and growth. The 7 mistakes we've covered today are lessons learned by those who've walked the path before you, and avoiding them will set you apart as a man of value, respect, and confidence. Let's take a moment to reflect on each one and the deeper truths they reveal. First, being too available teaches us the importance of valuing our time and energy. When you're always accessible, you unintentionally communicate that your life revolves around someone else. High-value men understand the power of balance, being present when it matters while maintaining their own priorities and purpose. Second, chasing instead of attracting reminds us that desperation is the enemy of respect. Women are drawn to men who live with intention, who focus on becoming their best selves rather than seeking external validation. Attraction is about who you are, not what you do to win someone over. Third, trying too hard to impress underscores the importance of authenticity. True confidence doesn't need to shout, it simply exists. High-value men inspire admiration by being genuine, grounded, and secure in their own skin. When you stop seeking approval, you naturally command respect. Fourth, neglecting emotional boundaries highlights the necessity of self-respect in any relationship. Without boundaries, you risk losing yourself and creating imbalances that erode connection over time. By setting clear limits, you protect your emotional well-being and establish a foundation of mutual respect. Fifth, ignoring subtle communication teaches us to listen beyond words. Relationships thrive on understanding, and much of that understanding comes from observing nonverbal cues, body language, tone, and timing. High-value men sharpen their emotional intelligence, becoming attuned to the unspoken signals that deepen connection. Sixth, showing insecurity reminds us of the power of self-assurance. Confidence isn't about being flawless, it's about embracing who you are, imperfections and all. High-value men don't seek validation because they already know their worth. They focus on growth and self-improvement, creating an inner strength that others can't help but admire. Finally, overinvesting too early reveals the importance of pacing in relationships. Generosity is a beautiful quality, but when given prematurely, it can overwhelm or create pressure. High-value men understand that relationships should evolve naturally, with effort and investment flowing equally from both sides. Each of these lessons ties back to the principles of Stoicism: self-control, discipline, and the pursuit of inner peace. As Marcus Aurelius said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. When you approach relationships with this mindset, you free yourself from the need to control others or prove your worth. Instead, you focus on what truly matters, becoming the best version of yourself. So where do you go from here? Start by reflecting on these 7 mistakes and how they might show up in your own life. Awareness is the first step toward change. From there, take intentional actions to align your behavior with the values of a high-value man. Prioritize self-respect, cultivate authenticity, and approach relationships with a sense of purpose and balance. Remember, respect isn't given, it's earned. Attraction isn't forced, it's inspired. And a high-value man doesn't just navigate relationships, he leads with confidence, clarity, and compassion. These aren't just principles for dating, they're principles for life. If these insights resonated with you, take a moment to reflect on what you've learned. Share your thoughts, implement these lessons, and watch how they transform your relationships. And if you want more guidance on mastering relationships and living with purpose, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the Stoic Golden Rule. Together, we're building a community of high-value men who inspire respect and admiration in every aspect of life.